So when we see striving in the Buddhist practice, we see or we know the stories of the Buddha, and to take into account, or in a more relatable sense, the story of the Buddha before he became enlightened, the stories of when he was bodhisattva. Going back to the most earliest of those stories, of when he prostrated himself on a puddle of mud as a crossing for the other arahants who were present, gives us the attitude, or rather the fixation upon the practice that one should have in mind towards, remember back in the day, it was not anything else, it was this movement to do what is right, good, and that which leads to nibbana, right? Nothing else. It was not to become something, it was not to be noted as something, it was not any of these things. It was a driving force behind our intentions to do that which is good, to respect those who are worthy of respect, in hope that through these actions we would be able to enlighten or come into a state of enlightenment ourselves. This motivation behind the Buddha's practice as a bodhisattva is what led him to receive the teachings that he did throughout his time as a bodhisattva, through the many lifetimes, to sometimes receive the best out of the best, even as the Buddha, right? It was a fact that when he indulged himself in an action of good, wholesome, kusala, he indulged himself without any doubt or restriction whatsoever. If one was to speak about it as drowning oneself, he properly drowned himself. He submerged himself into what he thought the action was, which was good, which was something which could help him to attain Nibbana. This attitude that the Bodhisattva displays in his time and path of practice is a similar attitude that we must try to build, to harbor, to have within ourselves whilst walking within this path of Dhamma. That fear that we sometimes have regarding the consequences of sometimes doing something which is good. The consequences meaning sometimes the negative impacts or the problems that one would face. That fear turns our mind into a position that is weaker than what that true action of goodness could bring for us. It is a work in progress. It is a work in progress all the time. But whilst we meditate and as we continue to meditate, when we go through different pains all around the body, when we might not be having the best day or the best start of the day, when we might not be having the most comfortable of circumstances or situations, choosing to close your eyes, sit yourself down, meditate, and whilst your mind objects, still choosing to keep your eyes closed and continue upon the meditation subject is a practice of the bodhisattvas. And that is something that will strengthen you to take you into the next levels, into the higher levels that are not anywhere else, but within one's own mind and one's own existence. To tap into and open up the possibilities that your mind is able to tap into, allowing yourself to experience these situations that can lead to one's enlightenment. And before enlightenment, it can lead to higher patience, a higher need for peace and an experience of peace, a higher sense of compassion and empathy for yourself and the people that you live in and for the society that you live in every way, not making you into something, but making you into a lighter person who has more potential to exuberate compassion and everything that is good. That is the practice. That is the practice. So allow yourself, when you do tread on the path, when you do something which is good, allow yourself to do it completely without any doubt in your mind. Without any doubts in your mind, should your intention be proper, should you be well informed and knowledgeable about what you are doing, and if that knowledge says that you are in always doing something which does not harm oneself or does not harm another, then when you do it, you do it absolutely with your whole entire mind. With your whole entire mind. This will, in day-to-day practice, even when one is sitting down, to meditate or to do something else that is good, allow that situation to overtake your mind, to overtake your life. Do not think about anything else. Isn't that the problem in the first place? We are trying to cook, but we keep on thinking about other things that we couldn't do right. We have now grown of age, or to grow of a mature age, yet we find it very difficult to be content with what we have or who we are, because we compare ourselves to other people, or we are unhappy of the things that we could not achieve for ourselves. We are in a forum such as this where we discuss and speak about our meditation development. We sometimes hear other people succeeding in meditation to high degrees, and we have succeeded in meditation, and you think for yourself, oh, why am I not experiencing this? These are all things that you have to put aside in light of a higher Dhamma, which enables us to break through those conditions that tie us down to society and these mundane sorts and patterns of thinking, to a more higher, more freed pattern of thinking. And this is what our meditation should be helping us to do. As we have discussed for the past couple of weeks, whatever meditations that we do, these meditations subjects us to a process of growth. The aim is then not the meditation, it is the growth. The growth is, the meditation is an instrument to that growth. The practices that we have in terms of the Noble Eightfold Path, if we leave aside the first two, all else are tools to the same thing, the first Noble Eightfold Path. What is the first? The Sammaditthi. We have learned this in the last Sutra class that we finished. The rest, the Samma Vacha, Kammanta, Ajiva, Vayama, Sakti, Samadhi, all of that are tools for one thing and one thing only, the Sammaditthi, to progress. The Sammaditthi, to come into a certain amount of power, security, stability, that will allow us to understand that each and everything, petty and minor, that we see all around us through the five sensory doors are things that arise and pass away, arise and pass away, arise and pass away. That which we use to experience these five sensory objects, the body, the nama, the rupa, is also that which operates by five conditions. Rupa, Vedana, Sanya, Sankhara, Vijnana, that also arises and passes away, arises and passes away, and arises and passes away, and has been arising and passing away for many, many, many eons and uncountable number of eons, since we have been living in the cycle of rebirth and death, rebirth and death, doing the same things over and over and over again. It is that samadhi that we need to profess, make, develop into a place where we are no longer willing to turn the other eye and blindside ourselves, where we openly accept, radically accept this reality, not in a way that we spiral into a depression and close ourselves in a room, but in a way that you progress, that you have the encouragement, and through that encouragement, the motivation to progress upon the path of Dhamma, to progress upon the path of Dhamma. Cling on to nothing else, not even the Buddha or the Dhamma, but use all of these things as tools to free yourself of any attachment that we have to this mundane world. It is in letting go of the old that we experience that which is new. We are all immigrants. We have all migrated from a country that we have been born into, where our mothers, our parents are a part of, and we have moved from one country to a different country. Imagine that you never let go of Sri Lanka or wherever you came from. You are living in the West or any other country in the world. You are always thinking about Sri Lanka, always thinking about your family, wherever your home is. You are always thinking about going back. You would have never flourished in mind, body, in whatever that you do, in wherever you are. Why? Because you were clinging on to the old. We have to be able to let go of this old, not for anyone else, not for anything else, rather than experience the goodness of the present moment. The goodness of the present moment. Letting go of the old brings that about. And in doing so, we are able to go into higher states of mind, to open our mind up to a plethora of newness, a plethora of potential that we are able to experience on the daily. And this old would now encompass of any frustrations that you have. Easier said than done, yes. Easier said than done in most cases. But remember, it's only easier said than done when our mind, thinking about something which is mundane, is also operating on a mundane level. That is when it is easier said than done. If you are speaking about letting go of a pauper's house, not having anything else, of course, it's very difficult. That's the only thing that you have. That's the only small matchbox of a house that you have. But then, what if you had a bigger, better, more luxurious house? You would let go of your pauper small hut very easily. Now, why is it that we are not convinced that we have something far greater than that pauper's house in our life? We do have something far greater. The knowledge of Karma, the Eightfold Noble Paths, the Paticca the dependent origination, the Dhamma, the Abhidhamma, all of these things which tell us time and time again, every time that we are aware and we open our eyes, every time that you look at a mirror, at yourself, what does it tell us? It reaffirms to us what the Dhamma is and how this Dhamma is real and true. Impermanence is seen within ourselves. It is seen in our relationship with our children, in our houses, in the neighborhoods that we live. The UK that you came into 20, 40 years ago is no longer the UK that you see today. Impermanence is in every grain of sand, in every grain of phenomena all around us. We have been to so many funerals. We have seen so many people crying for their departed. Doesn't this reaffirm to us the Dhamma that the Buddha has laid down? The fact that whatever it is that we cling on to, whatever negative emotions that we cling on to, whatever things, riches, or whatever it is that we cling on to, we will one day have to leave all of it behind, and even this body. Yet we try so hard to think that this is the only thing that we have. No, this is not the only thing that we have. It is in that samadhi, it is that samadhi that we try to develop. It is that samadhi that we try to develop to an extent where we understand that we have greater things in our life. This is very similar to a person who has a family, yet gives full priority to work. At the age of 65, 70, I am not sure, you have to retire. You have to retire. You have to leave and make way for a person who is a bit younger. And at that point, you realize all the energy that you put in to your work, and you come back to the people who have stuck with you, maybe with great amount of difficulty, but yet stuck with you for 50, 60, and maybe probably up until you die, and you regret. Why didn't I think more about my family? We sometimes, in these many things that we prioritize, we do not prioritize the right things. And to say, I am not saying to prioritize family, I am saying prioritize your mental liberation. Your mental liberation, and know that we are all capable of a higher experience of mentality, of going into higher places, and the riches and whatever comforts that you have in your life right now are things that you are capable of transgressing into a higher form of happiness. The Buddha, in his life as a bodhisattva, this lifetime, he had the ability to be born as a very, very blessed Chakravarti, a universal monarch. This universal monarch was a little bit different from all other universal monarchs. He was a little bit more blessed. And with that blessing, the Buddha, the bodhisattva, the universal monarch, having experienced all the pleasures that man could experience with all his wealth, power, and influence, he developed a craving, a need to experience a higher pleasure, to an extent that no man has experienced as a man. He receives the opportunity to rule Sakra's plane, a plane that is far beyond the human plane, with far beyond more pleasures than the humans could even imagine. And Sakra, because of this Chakravarti's blessing or merit, the Chakravarti loves the Buddha, the Bodhisattva, the Chakravarti, the Sakra loves the Chakravarti to sit next to him and rule one half of his plane while the Sakra rules the other. Whilst a man experiencing all the pleasures that a Sakravati would, the Sakra would, he still develops an urge and a need. Oh, this is not enough. I need Sakra's part as well. This is what the Buddha said. There is no fire like lust. There is no feeding this. There is no person who could love us as much as we love our egos and the way that we cling on to these egos. And trying to feed and get rid of these fires of lust through feeding this lust is never going to happen. We do not need to be accomplished in higher meditative absorptions to realize this. We just have to think about our past, maybe even our daily lives sometimes. The fact that we inertly, we do not have the potential to truly be content. We need things, more things. In knowing that, realize that going behind these mundane attributes is not going to bring you true happiness. There will always be something else that you will crave for. Realizing that it is only not the material aspects. It never is. It is always the mental feelings that you are attached to. A person who is an addict is not addicted to the substance. He's addicted to the feeling the substance brings. We are all addicts. We are addicts of sensual pleasure. We are addicts of ego. We are addicts of all these other emotions and feelings. And it is in going into rehab, realizing that we have to stop to enable ourselves to experience this high form of happiness, that we will actually be able to do so. That we will actually be able to do so. That is my sharing to you today.